Hoi Ryzen, how you going? Capcom released another patch for Dragon's Dogma 2, patch number 9. It's huge. It's the biggest patch for Dragon's Dogma 2 we've ever seen. Just take a look at it. New features, new adjustments, vocation balance changes, modifications and fixes, performance improvements, lots of good stuff. This patch applies to Steam, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X users, and in this overview video we'll be taking a look at it. Let's go. Alright, so here's the patch, the 17th of September 2024. As I said, it's big. Look, it feels like we're going through Warhammer 40k wiki or something. It's broken down into 3 sections: features and adjustments, adjustments to vocations, and the last one's called modifications and fixes. We'll go through each and every one of them to see what's been changed, and the first change is very weird. Let's get it out of the way. It's casual mode. I don't know who needs casual mode, but it's certainly not me and probably not you. But anyways, here we go. Casual mode includes reduced inn fees for staying at an inn, reduced price of fairy stones, more difficult for weight carried to become heavy or very heavy, less stamina expended when dashing outside of battle. That's actually pretty cool, and I think it should be in the normal mode as well. Loss gauge will not increase when selecting load from last save after the Arisen dies. As you know, when you die, your loss gauge accumulates. The grayed out part of your health becomes bigger and bigger. So in the casual mode, it's not the case. Pawns will recover from Dragon's Plague without a devastating calamity occurring, even if the symptoms progress to a terminal stage. As you can see here, you can now choose between normal and casual. Again, I don't know who needs this casual mode. We actually need a hard mode to make the game more challenging because it's currently too easy. But it's worth mentioning, it's worth noting that you can't get all the trophies playing in casual mode. It says here, trophies you cannot earn in this mode too. Not sure which trophies they're talking about, but I don't know who needs that. Journalists? Well, they're out of business. It also says, select this mode for a more relaxed adventure at your own pace. That's what normal is for. Maybe it's their way to start introducing new difficulties. I hope it's the case. Capcom, we need a hard mode, please. Next up, we now have a port crystal in Bagbatal. It makes a lot of sense, and it should have been there from the get-go. I'm very happy. So we now have 1 extra port crystal to place it somewhere. Adding Sovereign's Crown, Sovereign's Plate, and Sovereign's Greaves to the list of items that can be traded with the Dragon Forge. Very nice. Adding variations to Pawn's idle animations. This is pretty cool. Each and every vocation has at least 3 new idle animations, and they are absolutely adorable. This is how the Thief vocation animations look like. It's a small change that adds a little bit of character to our pawns, and I encourage you to go check them all out. New animations for when pawns and the Arisen start dashing. New animations for when the Arisen is riding on the larger enemy that is flying at high speeds, making it so that the main pawn can be revived an infinite number of times at Forgotten Riftstones. Adding Polski Polish under display language in the language section of the options menu. This one's for Polish people, congratulations. Next up, further fixes to issues around CPU overload in certain situations, and we will talk about it a little bit later in the video, but here's a short answer. Here's my TLDR. Is it fixed? No. Is it better? Yes. This was the first part of the patch, the first section, features and adjustments, and now let's move on to adjustments to vocations. Pretty big. Let's start with a fighter. First of all, the strength for all weapons has been increased. Reduced amount of time before stagger damage reactions can be cancelled with defend. Reducing charge time for task toss. Very nice, I like task toss a lot. Also reducing timing during which the attack can be cancelled while the user is unable to move after activation. It feels like they're making this OP vocation even more OP with these changes. Increased strength and knockdown power for Righteous Fury, and improving aiming ability on the target of the attack, making it so that the lock-on adjusts itself to a certain nearby target if the target initially locked onto is defeated mid-attack. So Righteous Fury is a chain of attacks, and when you use it and defeat, the initial enemy mid-attack, mid-combo, it kept playing out. You are just hitting the air. So now it actually adjusts to a nearby enemy, which is nice. Increased amount of time an enemy is downed after being knocked down by Shield Bash. Also knockdown power for Shield Bash. is increased. Next up, increasing aiming ability of blink strike upon activation, the most important fighter skill arguably, also adjusting to make it easier to hit locked on targets with this skill. Alright, next, increasing strength, expanding attack range, improving speed of initial activation animation, and adjusting timing of attack hits for compass slash, increasing strength and knockdown power, and expanding attack range for airward slash, also intensifying damage reactions for smaller enemies hit by this skill. And lastly, improving speed of the activation animation for gouge and skewer, also adjusting movement correction for this skill to make it easier to hit the attack target. Alright, so I don't know how I feel about these changes. Fighter is my most played and my favorite vocation in Dragon's Dogma 2, and I liked the way it felt playing as a fighter. Now with these changes that lean towards making it even more OP, I don't know how it would feel. Even more OP, I guess. I think I'll make a separate video talking about all the adjustments to vocations, and we'll also do a stream sometime very soon, checking them all out. Next up, Warrior. Extending input duration for chain of blows, reducing timing during which barge can be cancelled while the user is unable to move after activation, increasing strength for Arc of Might. No warrior is a warrior without Arc of Might. Adjusting strike timing for Savage Lash and making it easier to hit larger enemies' weak points while they're downed. That's all for the warrior. Archer. Reducing charge time and increasing strength and knockdown power for Dire Arrow, also extending timing during which a more powerful arrow can be loosed with this skill. Increasing damage dealt by Heavenly Shot and reducing time taken for stamina to start recovering after activation. Next up, increasing damage scaling for bow attacks, also increasing damage scaling for attacks that hit enemy weak points. Lastly, reducing weight of the items Explosive Arrow, Drenching Arrow, Tarring Arrow, and Blighting Arrow. Okay, so Archer is my second most played vocation in Dragon's Dogma 2, and it's also now more OP. The only reason I see for them to, beef them up is introducing hard mode sometime down the road, so here's hoping. Mage. Increasing duration of the silence debilitation inflicted by Solemnity. Increasing distance that flames unleashed by Flagration can reach. Increased number of times that clusters conjured with high palladium to protect allies can block attacks before they disappear. Increasing duration of the continuous health recovery effect of Argent Succor.
Argent Succor.
Argent Succor. Increasing power of additional lightning bolts summoned with additional button presses when casting Levin. Again, all the changes made for mages lean towards making it more OP. We got only one change for Thieves, changing stamina consumed when using Blades of the Pyre from a fixed amount to an amount proportionate to the user's maximum stamina. It's a very good change actually. And finally, Mystic Spearhand. Just one change, increasing strength and knockdown power for Setching Blade. And before we move to the next section, I want to say it again. I think they're beefing up all the vocations to introduce hard mode sometime down the road. It's my speculation, obviously. I don't know what's coming in the future, but I just want to think that. Again, here's hoping. Alright, and here's this huge list of modifications and fixes. For the sake of this video, I'm not gonna read through the whole thing, and most of them are very specific, very situational, and I'd also like to add that 95% of the issues listed here I haven't seen myself, and I've got like 400 hours of playtime. So I'll leave the link to the whole thing in the description if you want to go check it out, Instead, I want to highlight some of the issues I've seen myself and, talk about it a little. The first one is the issue where when playing as a Warfarer, redoing an enchantment and then using rearmament resulted in the enchantment remaining even after its effect duration had ended. I thought it was a feature, not a bug, but here you go. So when having a boon applied to your weapon when you're playing as a Warfarer, sometimes switching to a different weapon resulted in said boon staying there pretty much forever, so it's no longer the case now. The next one is this issue with gouging skewer. It used to happen quite a lot. Fixing issue where the Arisen could fail to cling to a target when using gouging skewer from a height. Next up, I'd like to highlight this one pawn issue. This one, fixing issue where the main pawn's eyeshadow wasn't applied in the world of other Arisen who hired them. Not just the eyeshadow, it used to happen to me a lot. Different hair color, no makeup, so very good, it's fixed now. Next up, fixing issue in second and subsequent playthroughs where pawns would guide the Arisen to treasure chests that had already been opened. Another welcome change is improving pawn lines to better match circumstances. It's still a little bit janky from time to time. There are also some changes to quests, and I'd like to read them all out. The first one is where pawns would be loaded in as party members if the player selected load from last save while exploring solo with the Ragnar during tensions on the high road. Fixing issue where pawns followed the Ryzen beyond the point where the party was supposed to be separated in tensions on the high road. Fixing issues where after defeating the Cyclops in Baron's final lesson, performing certain actions caused the defeated Cyclops to resurrect. That never happened to me, but in one of my playthroughs, Baron just disappeared at some point. I wonder if that's fixed. Fixing issue where if certain actions were performed during till death do us part, Gregor wouldn't go home even after being restored to life. And lastly, fixing issue where Higgs Tavern Stand wouldn't function as a shop under certain conditions. So I'd like to repeat myself again. If you want to read the whole thing, check out the description. There'll be a link to this page, or you can check all the changes on Steam. The last section of the patch also says that there was an issue when enabling DLSS frame generation caused a temporary lag when exiting the pause menu. I don't use, DLSS frame generation, the built-in one. I use the third-party app. If you have any information on that, let us know in the comments. So before we wrap it up, just a few things about the performance. It's much better now, but it's not ideal. My FPS stays somewhere between 40 and 60. I have a 60 FPS locked and it stays somewhere between 40 and 60. It's much better now, less stuttering, but it's still not ideal. And it's also worth mentioning that you can now switch your difficulty, right? From normal to casual, but you can't go back to normal if you're on casual. It's worth mentioning, it's worth noting. Be careful if you're ever using this casual mode. And that's about it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and watch out for a stream. I'll do a stream very soon. We'll check out all the changes together, and I'm also finishing my Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen first playthrough, so stop by and hang out with us. Thanks for watching. See ya.